Hello everyone, Hawky here, back with another Sword of Convallaria video. I'm really sorry about my previous recording, I don't know why it cracked up there. I just received my art book and plugged a few things in, so probably screwed up with my mic. This should be better now. So there is a code for this, get 300 crystals, but it only works on the main CN server. It doesn't even work on the Taiwan server. So I gifted it to my friend on the CN server, and then yeah, just got the message, commemorative letter. Let's go hand in hand on the sword making journey, and then they get this nice title as well. The gold and red title there. And let's go through the questions and answers on the art book. So on the last 3 pages, it had these question and answer sections from the old creative team. And let's go through all these questions and answers together. So first up, where did the initial inspiration for Sword of Convallaria project come from? So the inspiration comes from Tactics Ogre, Royal Knights 2. I remember playing that on the old GBA and everything. An old game that we love and respect very much. So where's the Final Fantasy Tactics reference here? And how was the Sword of Convallaria project team formed? What are the backgrounds of the members? The development team of Sword of Convallaria is composed of some veterans who have been working together since the pixel and console era, more than 20 years ago, and as well as an increasing number of new forces. Okay. And what kind of message or feeling do you hope to convey to players through the game Sword of Convallaria? So we hope that showing the cruelty of reality, players can personally feel the value of peace and praise the brilliant human nature under the heavy reality. We hope to encourage players to bravely make their own choices in order to change the world. Very deep feelings. Okay. Is there a particular game or work that had significant influence on Sword of Convallaria? It is the also aforementioned Tactics Ogre, the pixel style of Sword of Convallaria, the 45-degree oblique chess gameplay, and serious realistic narrative are all deeply influenced by it. Okay. And is there any specific cultural or historical background influence behind the game? To be precise, we're condensing some silhouettes of human history on this fictional stage and showing the cruelty of reality on this fictional stage. Okay. And then we see Luffy and everything there. And what were the biggest challenges you encountered while developing Sword of Convallaria? The biggest challenge is how to organically combine the standalone game narrative experience with the commercial logic of service-oriented online games. We have made many attempts, but the results are not fruitful. And what sources of inspiration did the art team get during the creative process? Inspiration comes from everywhere, from games, every day, the anime and comics they watch, and even conversations between colleagues. Yeah, I can barely read what the translation said there. Okay. All right. And what else do we have? Yeah, so Luffy, different images, normal, excited. So these everyday conversations can spark great ideas. Of course, for game development, each group has different sources of creative inspiration. Pixel production, animation performance, scene design, character design, skill performance, etc. will have their own fields to get inspiration. But the most important thing is how to make use of rich development experience, maximize inspiration and creativity without deviating from the overall game art style framework, and then achieve accurate implementation and meticulousness. Only by learning to control inspiration within a reasonable and effective range can we better help the game improve its overall quality and save development cost. Alright, and what is the background story? Sword of Two Evils. Sword of Convallaria places great emphasis on the reality of the core story. We try to depict some common human experiences across cultures and regions, such as the rise and fall of power, rebellion and oppression, and the struggle for resources in an imaginary fantasy story. Specifically, we abstract and extract the conflicting and dramatic parts from reality, and then we use fantasy elements to amplify and enhance them. For example, there are crystals in the game that are similar to oil and nuclear materials in reality. They're important resources that can change the world. The story revolves around the struggle for crystals among various forces, and the existence of crystals also provides support for the setting of all supernatural powers. Okay, that explains the mecha, right? What are the highlights of the scene design in the game? How to create different atmospheres and emotions. The story of Sword of Convallaria is set in an imaginary but serious and realistic world. It has the same geographical and topographical environments as the real world, and has rich climate and seasonal changes as the real world. What we do is just to express these elements in the form of pixels on a 3D regular chessboard stage, which is a highlight in itself and the feature of our scene. The battle chessboard of moderate size makes players feel interesting, with a sense of a small garden and the desire to observe and control. We use our own neo-pixel technology to flexibly use lighting, fog, projection, depth of field, and climate change in the engine to match various scenes that require emotional expression. For example, in the campfire scene, point light sources are used to dim the ambient light in other places, increase the projection animation, and on the normal map, the character has some volume under the influence. Oh, too fast. On the influence of the firelight, the illuminated part is warmer and the backlit part is cooler, making the scene with the fire at the center. A strong focusing effect is achieved, making players feel more immersive. How was the overall art style of Sword of Convallaria determined? The pixel art development of A game is quite good at this aspect of production and development process. Who is A game? In the recent years, nostalgic retro games with pixel art have emerged. With the current high level of development engines and technology, the performance of pixel art has also risen to a higher level, and it has been able to gain a foothold in the game industry as a unique art style. The development team has been adhering to the concept of doing what we're good at since the beginning of the project. The project's team expertise in pixels and war chess has been verified by the market as early as the golden age of games, and has been loved by a large number of players. Choosing the pixel art style can also allow these veterans who have been working in the game industry for nearly 20 years to return to the starting point and do the best in what they're good at. What special considerations go into the use of color in games? Alright, since the main story of Sword of Convallaria has a serious narrative style, we'll be as restrained as possible in the use of colors, using more medium-low purity and medium-low brightness colors, and try to avoid large-scale appearance of high purity and high brightness colors in the game. Okay, I mean, alright, not after 3.0, right? In addition, we also use different color schemes between different camps and forces, so that players can clearly and quickly distinguish them. These were planned and classified at the beginning of the game design, and strictly adhering to this color scheme also played a role in unifying the style during the development period. So, goodbye old team, and then, like, with the new union members, the art style totally changed. How does the UI design in a game coordinate with the overall art style? As a traditional chess game, the UI in Sword of Convallaria is very large. We need to keep it beautiful while taking into account ease of use as much as possible. We also need to consider multi-language design and data reuse. We made very detailed specifications and requirements for this in the early stage of development. In addition, although the game mainly uses pixel art, we still choose the lightweight and flat design style that is commonly used in online games in terms of UI, so that the bright UI style can neutralize the heavy atmosphere brought by the game theme. The lightweight and flat design not only fits the popular style of today's game UI, but also better highlights the core selling point of the game, pixel style, which is also consistent with our original intention of letting players fully experience the charm of pixels. Alright. And what is the main plotline of the game? The fate of Iria, a weak country that is surrounded by powerful countries and struggling to survive, is the main clue of the main story of Sword of Convallaria. Players would unfold parallel plot lines led by different countries and forces by choosing different routes for Iria's struggle. Why does Sword of Convallaria have such a grand and vast storyline? The war chest category itself is more in line with the relatively heavy war themes and epic fantasy stories, and we hope to build a stage that can be continuously extended, a world that can be immersed in and continue to accompany you. Okay, and then this is the third page, right? Yeah. When writing the plot, how did the team ensure that the story remained coherent and engaging? We have always tried to create a complete worldview. Every plot, or even a small episode, is based on the same historical context and geopolitical pattern, and can serve as an entry point for in-depth exploration of dramatic conflicts. In addition, players can change the fate of characters and even the world based on their own values. At the same time, the game also allows the coexistence of different storylines through multi-dimensional settings. Elysium, right? This can minimize the restrictions on story innovation and take into account coherence and consistency of the plot. Yeah, just kill players off, revive them, and kill them again. Is there a character that the team particularly favors? Why? Maybe it's Bella. That's Beryl. In this dark and heavy world, she's a free spirit, a complete heretic. No. And a rare bright spot. Okay. And a rare bright spot. Okay, let's keep going. Where did the inspiration for the main character come from? After comparing some successful game narrative cases, we believe that the protagonist of Sword of Convallaria needs to be an incarnation that is easy to empathize with, and on the other hand, needs to be able to accommodate the creation of a classic hero. Therefore, we designed a gentle, introverted, calm, and deep personality for her or him, so that the protagonist is neither a blank slate nor distracting. Are there any specific historical events or literary works? Final Fantasy's here. The Final Fantasy and Royal Knight series, which was Tactics Ogre, have undoubtedly influenced Sword of Convallaria. These historical references are hardly from a specific event, but rather a summary of recurring patterns and themes. Okay. And what we're looking at here. How do you develop characters' personality and background? We like complex and realistic characters, and complexity needs to be based on strong recognition. So we'll try and balance fantasy and real motivations of the characters. A detailed background story is of course one way to achieve this goal. In addition, we'll also design value dilemmas, ethical dilemmas, and contrasts and oppositions between characters for the characters to make them more vivid and three-dimensional. Can you share any information about new characters that will be added through DLC or updates in the future? The new version that will be released soon will show Inanna's growth and transformation. What kind of changes would the brand new her bring to... Is that Iria? I believe it is worth looking forward to. Yeah, so this was the original artists who... I feel like they pushed until like the SP Nana stage, right? And these are the original images. Dantalion, look at both the swords, and then Luffy with his expressions, and then the Lucians. Okay, well, might see them soon. The furries. Okay. And yeah, we have Samantha here. SP Samantha with the hoodie. He looks so cute there. But yeah, this is the ARTBOOK. These are the final words of our old creative art team before like the style changed. Creative team dialogue. See, chapter 4. And we mourned their loss. And yeah, all the styles have like really changed significantly. Like, see this Mytha. Look at her face. Like, how things have changed so much. And we went mecha style as well. Maybe the new artists are good at building mecha. That new Mytha, new Nungol. I mean, that does look alright. And then we have Chad Fakel, Nungol there. And then, you know, Eucerin, like the new art style is more. I feel like it's like more mainstream gacha fantasy style compared to the old one, right? The old was more subdued, more. I guess it was like more like dulled, more dim, and now it's like bright and fancy. Like Parsifal was a huge change to this art style. Like his 5-star animation. You guys seen it? It's like very significantly different.